This is an analysis of the documentary Distracted, Eyes Off the Road by Gloria, Setareh, Krithika, and Brittany. Distracted, Eyes Off the Road is an educational documentary released in 2014 by the University of Montana School of Journalism. Made for drivers, it reported informative statistics on driving accidents and used anecdotes to describe the dangers of driving. A notable achievement it received was the Television In-Depth Reporting finalist in the Region 10 Mark of Excellence Awards. For some background, the film explores the ramifications of distracted driving through heart-wrenching personal stories of those who have first-hand experience with its dangers. The documentary strives to encourage focused, attentive driving by eliminating all disturbances while on the road and helping others understand the consequences that distractions can have.
The purpose of this documentary is to raise awareness to the problem of distracted driving. Driving is a group effort that requires everyone on the road to follow the rules in order to trust each other to drive responsibly. However, a pitfall of this freedom to drive anywhere at any time is distracted driving. Distracted driving can describe a variety of things, such as being preoccupied with texting, talking to a friend, or having pets in the car. These actions put the safety of everyone on the road in jeopardy. A car crash can happen in a matter of moments, and every second not focused on driving is a second that an accident could occur. Distracted driving is not limited to simply not paying attention, and engaging in the act could have deadly consequences.
Driving. Driving is an exercise in trust. We trust other drivers will stop when they're supposed to. We trust other drivers will stay in their lane. We trust other drivers are paying attention.
Distracted driving to me would be my children playing in the back seat.
Doing anything but what you're supposed to, look ahead, watch your surroundings.
From cell phones to pets in the vehicle to your own mental state that day.
This documentary is targeted at drivers because they're the ones who need to pay attention on the road. It focuses on people who think they can multitask and send a quick text or be on a call and won't get into an accident. This is shown through many facts and statistics that are based on drivers and the dangers they pose every moment they take their eyes away from the road. For instance, the documentary claims multiple times that distracted driving results in millions of deaths every year. This repetition serves to drive home the point that distracted driving has an impact on every driver involved. For example, a Montana mom named Nicole is the highlighted driver in this documentary, detailing how her busy life leads to her feeling the need to engage in distracted driving.
Missoula mom Nicole Schreckengust has a lot on her mind. She has 1 hour to get 4 kids to 4 different schools with little margin for error.
If he misses the bus, then our whole process gets screwed up and we are in a rush.
More specifically, however, the documentary focuses on teenagers because it mentions the epidemic of young drivers who feel the need to be on their phones and respond to notifications as they come instead of waiting until they're off the road or pulling over to answer. For example, in one anecdote, a teen girl named Josie speaks to her high school about the dangers of distracted driving by heartbreakingly describing the experience of her sister Janae's death that happened because she texted and drove. Essentially, Josie focuses on how teenagers are more likely to succumb to texting when compared to the average adult. By zeroing in on a certain age category, the documentary hopes to most effectively prevent car crashes by addressing the majority who are responsible for them, as the number one cause of teenage death is road accidents.
There's a lot of kids that use their phones, especially right when we get out for lunch, everyone has their phone out. And that scares me the most because leaving for lunch, everyone still has their phone out and they're still driving while texting, so.
For some of Josie's peers, ignoring a phone while driving is difficult.
The filmmaker establishes the importance of the dangers of distracted driving by relating to the audience and giving statistics and emotional anecdotes. The first way that the filmmaker establishes the importance of this issue is by relating it to a concept that most people know well, multitasking. The filmmaker shows how Nicole, a mom of 4, has a busy morning and must multitask to get all 4 kids out the door in time. Otherwise, her entire morning schedule is ruined. But The multitasking extends to her driving, and when this happens, the blood flow to the part of the brain that comprehends vision and decreases, and therefore increases the risk of accidents. By using a relatable scenario, the filmmaker can better convince the viewer of the dangerous implications of distracted driving.
Blood flow actually leaves the vision part of your brain and it goes up to the frontal lobe to help you get through all of that. So in the meantime, with less blood supply to the brain, you're not visually paying as much attention as you should.
Additionally, the filmmaker also uses news reports on fatal crashes in order to show the severity of the issue, citing that even flat open roads with virtually nothing around can cause crashes. Throughout the documentary, the narrator brings up statistics about crashes and distracted driving, showing real evidence of the dangers of distracted driving. For example, it stated that 70% of teenagers have admitted to sending a text behind the wheel, and that 1 in 4 teens text each time that they drive.
If you're as outraged as I am about distracted driving, we need to start our own movement to stop it.
The Department of Transportation is launching a haunting ad campaign next week.
Colorado is working to stop distracted driving.
For some of Josie's peers, ignoring a phone while driving is difficult. More than 70% of teen and young adult drivers have read or sent a text behind the wheel. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 1 in 4 teen drivers do this every time they drive.
The teen driver is going to be sorely tempted to pick it up and see what that text says, just for that instant, immediate gratification. The adult driver is going to know that even though he hears it, he's driving and he needs to just have the willpower to not answer it, or maybe he's already put it on silent.
The filmmaker also combines these statistical facts with personal anecdotes in order to spread awareness and compel the audience to realize the dangers of distracted driving. The documentary introduces the story of Josie and the death of her sister Janae, who died while texting and driving. By using a heartfelt story of the grief that the crash caused for Janae's family and Janae's loss of opportunity to grow up, the significance of preventing distracted driving is increased as the filmmakers appeal to the emotions of loss and heartache for the death of a family member. The film switches between 3 main storylines with statistics and other cuts in between. The first anecdote is about a multitasking mother, Nicole, who spends her morning frantically caring for her kids. The film emphasizes that this hurried and preoccupied nature can be a great danger while driving. The second story is about a man who was hurt in an accident and was permanently affected by it. The third story is about a girl who lost her sister in a distracted driving accident and hopes to persuade her school to focus on driving. Each anecdotal excerpt contributes to the argument that distracted driving poses various risks, and the claim is further supported by statistics and studies from well-respected institutions like the National Safety Council and the Department of Transportation to provide a logical, rational line of thinking.
A recent report by the National Transportation Safety Board indicates that drivers that are texting are 163 times more likely to get in an accident. A bill proposing a statewide ban was introduced in the Montana Senate in 2013, but it died in committee. Montana and South Carolina are the only 2 states in the nation without some kind of statewide law restricting cell phone use behind the wheel. The NHTSA says the number 1 distraction is being lost in thought, followed by cell phones, things outside the car, passengers, and adjusting vehicle controls. According to the NHTSA, in 87% of distracted driving accidents, the cell phone is not the main distraction.
The structure of using 3 different real-life examples helps to push the narrative that distracted driving is indeed a real issue in today's world, with consequences ranging from a mere ticket to the death of a loved one.
In this program, one Missoula mom struggles with giving up her distractions when she gets in the car. One Kalispell man pays the price for another driver's distractions. And a Sydney teen educates her peers about the consequences of distracted driving.
This helps achieve the filmmaker's purpose by building up the emotions of pain and sympathy as the stories about distracted driving get progressively worse. The film attempts to leave the audience feeling inspired to prevent themselves and others from texting and driving, and hopes to bring more awareness on how being a safe driver can save countless lives.
And the pickup had so much momentum that it was across a fence. She hadn't hit the fence, she went over it. We pulled up, she stopped, and I got out of the car and I screamed, "That's my sister." So when my dad pulled up, my mom immediately screamed, "It's Janae." I don't know if any of you have ever truly heard a heartbreak, but when my dad screamed no, I heard his heartbreak.
The documentary uses direct interviews, voiceover narration, and quotes. The direct interviews provide first-hand experience to exhibit the resounding impact of distracted driving, evoking specific emotions like distress, guilt, and even determination to not be distracted while driving in the audience.
Josie's learned firsthand why she shouldn't use her phone while driving. Today, she hopes sharing her experience with distracted driving will make her peers consider putting their phones away when they get behind the wheel.
I think something serious needs to come up in their eyes that will affect them, will scare them to put their phones down.
The voiceover narration allows for the documentary to elaborate on certain concepts and exposition while showing a story with the video. By including a voiceover, the viewer is able to gain clarity about the anecdotes and visual elements of the film can be described and elaborated on, either by using rational statistics or shifting the tone of voice to invoke the specified feelings of guilt or responsibility.
Nicole deals with a hands-free ordinance every time she drives in Missoula. Tom and Kalispell and Josie and Sydney don't face any law restricting cell phones behind the wheel. In 2010, Billings passed Montana's first hands-free cell phone law, so a driver can use a cell phone but can't touch it.
Additionally, the filmmaker uses real quotes from old news channel recordings that are reporting about car crashes in order to intensify and build on the dangers distracting driving can cause. The reports used in the documentary demonstrate how prevalent car crashes occur every day and how they almost end in an injury or death. These video segments enforce that idea that no matter how many warnings news channels provide to their audience, distracted driving will always occur if the drivers themselves don't try to create a safer environment for themselves and others.
Drivers who like to keep their pets in their laps or on a seat unrestrained.
We are getting confirmation that 2 have died and 3 others are hospitalized in a crash.
Finally, the filmmaker uses close-ups while zooming in on people who are caught driving irresponsibly. They set up cameras at intersections in cities such as Kalispell in order to catch people who are distracted behind the wheel, and the footage caught was astonishing. People saw that they were being recorded and continued to use their phones. One woman was even cleaning her windshield while behind the stoplight. These close-ups illustrate the sheer magnitude of the problem and demonstrate the immediate need for change.
Because distracted driving is difficult to quantify, we conducted our own experiment. We put 2 cameras in plain view at busy intersections in Missoula and Kalispell. During 1 hour of the morning commute, we counted every distracted driver we could see. The cameras themselves drew some attention, and we saw people modify their driving behaviors as they drove past. It was difficult for us and the camera to see inside the vehicle.
The tone at the beginning is informative and educational as the topic of distracted driving is introduced. It provides statistical and contextual information about what is about to happen later in the video. However, when anecdotes are being told, specifically during the middle, it switches to a very melancholic and somber tone. For example, as the narrator of one story, Josie, gives a speech about the death of her sister Janae, sad music plays as she is heard sniffling, added to the very emotional scene. Janae's death occurred due to her being distracted while driving.
What I want to get across is the fact that Janae was unbelievably smart, unbelievably gifted, and this happened to her. she was distracted driving and isn't here. So what I want to ask is for all of you, in the sake of your parents, and the sake of your friends, and anybody who cares about you, to make the right decision when you get in your vehicle. Set your phone down. Have your friends handle your phone. Because no matter how smart Janae was, she's not here today. And that'll never change.
The film ends with all the different stories coming together on how to improve on the problem of distracted driving. Although sad music plays in the background, the tone is much more calm than the one used in Janae's story, and it has a slightly happy, empathetic tone to it. It tells the viewer that there must be a societal change, which may be daunting, but it also sparks hope for a future and spurs change. These different tones help increase the connection between the message of the film and the audience, as the personal anecdote appeals to the audience's relationship they might have with their family in order to reinforce why distracted driving is something that must be prevented. By the end of the film, the tone is bittersweet, as more people are able to learn from others in their own experiences about the importance of distracted driving.
Josie hopes sharing her sister Janae's story will affect someone else's behavior behind the wheel.
And like I told Josie, we'll never know. You're never gonna know that, oh, you talked and this kid, Joey, listened to you and he missed being in a head-on because he put his phone. You won't know. It's not something that we're gonna get feedback on. Josie, your speech saved my life. You know, it's not like that. It's just something that she can put out there, and hopefully as a young person, other young people will listen to her and take it to heart and put their phone away.
To recap, Distracted, Eyes Off the Road displays the dangerous effects of distracted driving through 3 anecdotes. The first anecdote of a busy mother serves as a relatable story to convince the audience that despite leading busy lives, we must find a way as a society to slow down so that we and others on the road can be safe. The second anecdote delves into the consequences of distracted driving, as we learn the story of a man who received long-term injuries after being involved in an accident at a busy intersection. The third anecdote describes the pain of a family as they explain how they lost a loved one through distracted driving, and explains how teenagers must be able to keep their eyes on the road and not on their phone. The ultimate message of Distracted, Eyes Off the Road is that while you may not be able to completely eliminate all distractions from your vehicle, it is important to slow down and understand the consequences of distracted driving in order to not only keep yourself, but everyone else on the road safe. The documentary communicates this message by using a variety of effective rhetorical strategies, like film structure, cinematography, and tone shift. Structuring the film into 3 anecdotes with informational statistics dispersed throughout is effective because it allows the audience a chance to contemplate the dangers of distracted driving. Cinematic techniques like direct interviews introduce a personal element to convey feelings of guilt and responsibility. Narrations of statistics and quotes from news segments invoke feelings of solemnness and severity. Tone shift helps to emphasize these specified feelings with accommodating background music and relatable sentiments. If you'd like to view the documentary Distracted, Eyes Off the Road, you can find it via Learn360, pbs.org, or YouTube. You can check out these links for other parts of the documentary analysis. Thank you for listening to this comprehensive analysis on Distracted, Eyes Off the Road.